This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. She has enlightened us to something I never knew existed, and that is help for when you're involved in a car accident. It's a traumatic experience. It can be life-changing, and your insurance many times pays for therapy. She provides that therapy to people in New Jersey, and I've learned so much along this process of healing from a car accident. And coincidence or not, I have a friend that was involved in a really bad one with his family, and he's dealing with this right now. Got a lot of advice from her. Miriam Rosario is back with us. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good, and I've shared my friend's journey, which was months ago, and I just learned the other day that, and I had no idea, his wife is going for shoulder surgery. This is months after the accident. Shoulder surgery in September. His son is going through, who's like 21, 2. He's going for hip surgery as a result of the accident next
Oh, wow.
Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just it never ends. And I think I revealed too that as a result of, well, not as a result of the accident, but because of the diagnostics and figuring out what happened, with their necks, they found thyroid cancer. She since had surgery for that. Talk about trauma.
Yeah.
A lot going on there. Fortunately, there's people like you to walk that journey with others. Would you say this is a specialty for you in working with people who have had accidents? Car
It
accidents?
is.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Hmm.
would say I've been working with them since 2015.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
You must have heard many different scenario stories and such, right?
I have, and a lot of them are heart-wrenching, and it's a shame that it takes time sometimes to find what has happened in the accident to your body and then having to then correct it through surgery.
Yeah, and that's just the physical part. Then you have the emotional
Right.
part that's going on there. Uh, Certainly, it's a trauma. It's going to come up again. Sometimes it can come up as a dream or a nightmare. So we're going to talk about that today. And nightmares as expression of an accident. Are you having a nightmare or a dream as a result of a trauma, like a car accident, for a reason to help you heal? Is that why it's coming up? Is that why you're seeing it, in your dreams?
Yes, I believe that that's the reason why it comes up. It's because we've had this experience that our brain is having a hard time processing because it was a trauma. And so dreams are a window into where we need healing. And so when we have a nightmare about it, it gives us the opportunity to then focus on that to heal it from our body.
Hmm. Somebody said to me recently, and kind of in line with what we're talking about, that memories come up, childhood memories, negative ones, things that have happened to you, uh, to help you heal, to tell you that, hello, I'm having trouble over here in your subconscious. I need to heal from this, so I'm throwing it at you again. Do you think there's some validity in that?
Absolutely. I mean, I really believe that our mind and our brain remembers everything that we have ever seen and ever experienced. So when we have a dream or we have a nightmare, it's our unconscious and sometimes our conscious pointing to the areas in which we need to focus on in order to heal.
Hmm. So let's go into nightmares and dreams. Tell us.
What would you like to know?
Ooh, so much there to process. Is it normal? Is it normal to, is just that's a normal part of life, having nightmares and dreams when you have situations that you've been through?
Yes, It is normal because that's part of our mind, our brain's way of processing through what has happened. When we go through our REM sleep, I believe I talked about this with trauma, but when we go through and we're in our REM sleep, that is our body's natural state of processing through the day and everything that we have experienced. And depending on the type of dream, whether you're in it or you're observing it, or
Mm.
whether it's light or dark in the dream, whether you see yourself or you don't, whether other people are there and they're male or female, depending on what your gender is, means something. It's very fascinating, actually.
It really is when you start thinking
Mhm.
about it, because I didn't even think of, seeing it as you're in a car accident. Are you seeing yourself going through that accident? Are you seeing it as a bystander? Like you could, we don't
Mhm.
know. I mean, anything could come up and it could vary. A week now, week goes by, you have a dream of the accident again. Now you're in it as opposed to being a spectator of the accident. Um, what about the imagery that comes up? What is actually going on there when you're seeing something? Is there a way to tie it to what's happening within us?
Absolutely. There, I'm sure, are plenty of books on dreams. And then online, we have access to dream interpretation. So you can always look something up to see what it means. But I believe that dreams are all metaphors. So when you're having a dream, actually, the only person in the dream, and this is my belief from the research and the readings that I've done and working with dreams, um, everything in your dream is about you, right? So whether you're having a dream where you're observing or you're in it, it's pointing out something that has happened to you that is familiar with you. So you are actually the only person who can interpret the dream. So if
Hmm.
I'm working with a client and they have a nightmare and they share it with me, my role is to ask questions about it and how they describe it and the words that they use are they're all connected. That's where the interpretation comes in, but it's through the patient.
So you really have a challenging position where you need to get the imagery of the dream and what they were feeling and kind of help them process everything. I would imagine that's how it's going to go.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I remember having a client who came in, and this was in my private practice where she just broke up from a relationship. And I do my training is in psychoanalysis, so I do have a couch in my office.
Hmm.
And so she laid on the couch and she started talking about how they broke up and she has to sort of pick up the pieces, and she just doesn't know who she is anymore, because when we break up from a relationship, we're so intertwined with the other person.
Yep.
The breakup happens, you sort of have to regain your pieces and become who you are again and identify. So
And side note, many times you've lost yourself in the relationship just depending on the relationship. Just throwing that out there.
yep, yep, absolutely. It's especially if it's not a healthy relationship, a
Yeah.
mentally healthy one or physically healthy one. So she in session starts telling me that she had this nightmare. And so I asked her to explain and to describe it. And so start asking her questions. And she says to me, well, in the dream, I lost my wallet and I was going crazy because I could not find my wallet. So I said to her, I said, well, what are the things that you find in your wallet? And her response was, my ID. And I thought, interesting, interesting. So she was pretty funny. She was good to
Wow.
work with. Um, and she turned around and she just told me, get out. I can't believe it. And so here she had a dream about losing her wallet that has her identification in it. And she's talking about not knowing who she is and having to go through that process again to figuring out who she is.
Kudos to you for asking what was in the wallet, because I probably wouldn't have even thought of that. That
Mhm.
there was significance in that.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
And then I have the clients that I work with that have been in auto accidents, that have had dreams about being in another accident, you know,
Ah.
and they talk about it's not exactly the same. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. A lot of their dreams have to do with being safe. It's just very interesting. I find it very fascinating. And dreams always happen when they happen. It's usually what's happening in your present time. So if there's something you're not talking about and your body and your mind need to work through it, you're going to have dreams all about it.
Why don't we typically remember our dreams? Many times, middle of the night, I'll wake up. Oh yeah, I just thought, wow, that was interesting. Got a couple pieces of that. All right. Yeah, grab something to drink, go to the bathroom, whatever. Go back to bed. Wake up in the morning, nothing. Like I don't.
Uh-huh.
It's like that. And yes, you should write it down. I've heard that a million times. You're half asleep,
Mhm.
always forget to do that. Is there a reason why we just don't remember them?
I just think that the more, from what I found, is the more you know who you are and you've worked on yourself, the more you remember what your dreams are.
Oh, interesting.
Hmm.
Hmm. So, in other words, you may be more in tune with yourself by doing the
Right,
work on yourself.
right,
Call it shadow work or, yeah, mental, emotional work, whatever it might be. You're more connected.
right.
Mm.
And I think that we tend to remember dreams during the times in our lives that we are going through something stressful or something that's really significant in our lives, whether it's a happy moment, or a change that's happening, maybe having a question and not having the answer, and then you dream about it. And within the dream, which if you do want an answer to a question, you can always ask the question right before you go to sleep. And then you'll dream about it and have an answer in the morning if you pay attention.
Thank you for saying that. And I was just thinking that before you said it because I've heard it. And I am a firm believer in every answer you need. You already know the answer.
Hmm.
It's already there. And I pilot in this journey. This was the first phrase I put on my phone and left it there. All I need is within me now. You got everything you need. You got the
Right,
answer. It's
right,
there. What gets in the way? Logic, ego, all that other stuff,
pride.
emotion, and
Mhm.
everything. Your intuition, all of that is programmed in you, and you know the answer. So, like to your point, I guess ask for the answer and dream on it. I guess Miriam, I guess that's why people say when they have to um, make a decision, let me sleep on it.
Yes.
Maybe that's what that. Maybe that's what they're saying there.
Yes.
Hmm.
And because you're really not supposed to make a decision when you're happy, and you're not supposed to make a decision when you're sad or angry.
Yeah, make a decision when you're sleeping because it will be crazy as that sounds. It'll be you knowing the answer and none of the other factors getting in the way.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
So, can we talk about what's actually going on with the therapy connected to dreams and nightmares? I mean, you've identified the beginning point of working with somebody, finding out what the dream was, kind of dissecting it a little bit. But can we go deeper into how therapy works?
So when you have a dream and you talk about it in therapy, it is important to talk about it, especially if you want some answers. I mean, if you want to remember it and you can't, then one of the processes would be to write it down and then bring it into session and work with your therapist on it. And you would then circle words that stand out on whatever the description is. And then you would talk about it in session. Now, when I work with somebody and I ask them to do that, typically they remember the people that come in with dreams will remember. Sometimes they'll write them down and they'll start telling me what the dream is. And so I'll ask these questions, whether they were in it or watching it like a movie.
Hmm.
I'll ask them if it was light or dark in the dream. And then I'll ask them who was in the dream. So, Steve, if you had a dream that you were talking about, and you told me that in your dream, there was this woman in the dream, and this woman was saying certain things to you, well, because you're a man in the dream, the woman is your messenger. Okay. Now, if you dream with other men in the dream, then those men represent different parts of you. Now, whether you see their face or not, it depends on. So let's say one of the things that you're working on is
Hmm.
um, not judging other people. Okay. And you see the shadow part of you, which is a Jungian term. You see yourself typically when you see another man, they're usually probably a darker complexion than you are, because that represents the shadow part of you. So if you, let's say, working on not judging somebody, and you see yourself in the dream, you see the face, and the dream has some type of theme around judging. If you see your face, then you're directly working on that, not judging people. But if you don't see your face, then that means you're having a hard time facing that. Does that make sense?
It does in a scary way. Like I didn't know that there was connections here. So if you were a woman and there are other women in your dream, potentially that could be the different parts of you.
Right. The women represent the different shadow parts of us.
Hmm. And I think we should identify that we all have different parts. We're not talking about multiple personalities. We're talking about the different parts of your one personality, and that, which is normal, which is normal.
Right.
But now I'm hearing from you that they can present themselves during a dream.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
But I would have never known until you said that.
And whatever you're working on at the time is what they represent, because dreams happen in present tense.
Hmm.
So it's
Wow.
whatever's happening in your life right now.
I really think it comes down to ask for answers before you go to sleep. You know, a lot of this stuff I don't remember. You know, if I can remember one classic dream I've had when I was younger, it's kind of ridiculous, but I built a helicopter like made out of wood and then took off. And I don't know if that was me trying to escape from life. But you know, I would be up, I would be looking down at the ground, I'd be flying around, but I built it. And it was something I made. I don't know if I made it to get out of a situation or just get clarity or whatever it is, but I remember dreaming that quite often when I was younger. What does it mean? I don't know. No idea. That's
Were
when you
you
can't
flying it?
Google. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Were you flying it?
I was flying it.
How old were you when you had the dream?
I want to say you know, a kid, then to teens, maybe in my 20s too. I would see that one. I haven't had that one in forever, but I still remember it. It's still there. Like I can even think in my mind back to the dream where I can see myself lifting off in the helicopter and just, you know, I didn't go really far, but you know, I made a helicopter and took off.
Mhm.
I don't know. Steve needs deep therapy. That's what Miriam is thinking right now. Uh,
Now, I'm just wondering at that time if there was something happening where you felt like you needed to create this
Escape.
escape, kind of to sort of float above it and have some control over it and just kind of observe what was happening.
I would say that's probably accurate. I would say that's
Mhm.
accurate, and especially the flying over. You
Hmm.
know, um, are there, you know, when people have certain animals they dream and things like that? You know, and we Google it. In your opinion, how accurate do you think that is?
It really depends on The person who had the dream and the connection that they have with it. So it gives some information, and whether, you as the dreamer resonates with it, then that's what gives it the meaning. So
It's very individual. So, like, somebody
it
dreams
is.
about a snake and you Google it and it says a snake means that you have prosperity coming your way, blah, 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 blah. It could, but it's very individual, I would think, as we're talking today, that you need to get the other pieces that go along with the snake that showed up. Was the snake in your home? Was the snake have somebody else around that snake? This. I think you need the biggest part of the picture before you can really dig into it that way.
Right. And you also need to take into consideration what's happening in your life then, because snakes also represent healing. Like if you look at the symbol of the doctor and the staff, those are snakes. And the reason why they represent healing is because back in the ancient times, they used to use snakes to suck out the poison in the bloodstream, or they would use those
A
those
leech?
leeches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I
Yeah.
always wondered why that. And you're right. That's a universal sign for doctor or medical.
Hmm.
So interesting, though. Like we wouldn't think that. A snake is viewed typically as not being. It's not a chipmunk. Chipmunks are cute.
Right.
Yeah. I have
Right.
nothing against snakes, by the way. I think they're cool. Anything that you want us to know when it comes to PIP patients, personal injury protection patients, which is what we're talking about here in terms of car accidents and trauma. Anything that you really want to make sure that we hit up that we didn't touch upon today?
I think that it's normal to have nightmares when you've had a traumatic experience. It's just our brain's way of trying to process that and make sense of it. And it's very helpful to talk about it because when you talk about it, it helps to normalize what the experience is. And as you work on it, it also helps with the healing process.
Your insurance, most cover this therapy for accidents, which again blows my mind that nobody really talks about that.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm not being negative here, but insurance companies aren't going to like put that in big writing on your plan
Mhm.
because it costs them money, but you're paying for it. And you can work with anybody in the state of New Jersey to help them overcome some challenges because of car accidents. And I don't think I've ever asked this though. Let's say somebody's dealing with a trauma and it's not a car accident. Can you still work with them?
I can. Then I would just use their medical insurance,
Right,
and
right.
yeah, you can schedule an appointment, and we can work through the process. I can use the same techniques. It's just the trauma's focused differently.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's where I was going with that. And yeah, I didn't assume that that would come out of your car insurance,
yeah,
them
yeah.
paying for it. Miriam, what's the best way to find you?
You can reach out at go to the website at www.pippna.com, or you can call 856-548-9557.
Thank you for today and all the insight involving this. I think it answered a lot of questions that we have about dreams and nightmares in general, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was great being on.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.